And the one conversation we had, we actually spoke about how men, especially men of color, we don't have these conversations that are super important of like, what is it like feeling of losing a loved one, especially that close to you, a mother, because it's something that we don't want to think about. We want to avoid until it comes to it. And then finally, when it happens, it's like, we don't know what direction to go, whether it be talking to a close friend. Like, how did you react when it first happened? Because I think you told me that you had either friends reach out that it happened to them, and then they were kind of asking you how you processed it. And I even asked you because
I reached out to them.
You reached out to them?
Yeah, I'm strategic. So like it happened, and that's why the song and like the visuals line up so much, because I'm really big on intentional design. But you know what happened was I had a trip planned to Hawaii, and that was my first vacation I took in like 6-7 years. Just the way life was working out, and so I was like, all right, well, I booked this trip, but then like maybe like a month and a half before the trip was when my mom had a stroke. So me and the kids went to visit a couple times. Then my kids were going away with their mom to the Philippines, which is an amazing experience for them. So they were gone for a big chunk of February. I knew I was going out, and I was like, something like when I was flying out there, I was like, I got a feeling that.
What's your gut?
Yeah, I knew. So the last time I saw her, and I FaceTimed her once or twice while I was in Hawaii, and she wasn't really talking much and anything, but I had the sense, like my intuition was telling me what was gonna happen. But I was literally on the beach, chilling, on the beach chilling. I had wrote her name in the sand because my mom didn't travel much, so every time I went places, I would like take certain pictures or be like, "Hey, mom, look where you made it to," and I'd show her, you know what I'm saying, or I'd buy her stuff from these spots, or if I found a cow somewhere because she loved cows, I would like, all right, look, I got you this from this place I traveled to or whatever. So that was all happening in real time. And at that time I loved photography, especially like learning what I've learned about photography. But I was like taking pictures of everything I could in Hawaii, but I was taking pictures of this bird flying around, and it was hunting. So I was like, yo, that would be kind of lit to catch a bird hunting on some like, I'm about to be National Geographic Jones out here, you know what I mean? Like, I was in my bag, and I'm doing that, and then there's these crabs on the stone. Like, I was enjoying myself, and then my phone rang. It was like maybe 3:20 in the afternoon in Hawaii, so that means on the East Coast here, it would have been like 8:20 or something like that.
Wow, and you remember the times exactly.
It was. I'm pretty sure it was around that time.
Wow.
And then as soon as I saw my sister's name pop up, I already knew what it was. Like, I already knew. And as soon as I answered and just heard her voice, I was just like, I know what this is sitting for. And so then she told me to communicate with certain people and stuff like that. And then I just took a moment to process. And then even just throughout that process and, being with a family member out in Hawaii, my cousin was living out there at the time. It was as beautiful as it could be going through a grieving process. If I could say it any better than that, it was like a movie, to be honest. Like, I'm in Hawaii for the first time. I just wrote her name in the sand, and 10-15 minutes later, I'm shooting a bird. Not shooting a bird, taking pictures of a bird for the first time, and it's just flying and hunting, and the pictures are amazing. I mean, I'm biased, but I think they're amazing. And for all that to happen, it was like, wow, like, this is God engineering and storytelling, and I can't, like, this actually happened. It's not something I made up, you know what I mean? So
right. And then some of those photos I think you actually put on the video that you had on there, because those visuals I think definitely added on to it. When I was recording you and just listening to the lyrics and everything, I had no clue, because we spoke about it a couple of times, but not in that deep detail. So it was even my first time like listening and just experiencing your experience from your own words. And I was just like, damn.
Yeah.
Because one of the things you mentioned is like everyone knew you as kind of like the magazine guy, the event guy, the party guy. And then during these times, like, you toned it down a bit. but you had a good reason. But I imagine that during that time, there was probably a lot of people hitting you up like, yo, what's up with Echo Live?
Non-stop, man. To this day, I still get that. But you know, it wasn't like I told anybody that, and I didn't really feel like it was anyone's place to know. I didn't feel like anyone was entitled or privileged to that information. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who needed to know knew, and like that was it. So, and as far as I was concerned, especially back then, I feel like everybody was on a need to know basis.
So
it wasn't personal. It was just who I was.
One of the things that you said was you're always strategic about the way you approach things. What kind of questions were you asking your close friends or relatives that may have experienced something similar to kind of process this a little better?
To be honest, for me, I treated it like anything else that I know is difficult. I make a list and I figure out who is a subject matter expert that I have access to. So for me, subject matter expert was, who do I know that has lost a parent? Step one, who do I know that's lost their mother while juggling things? And I literally reached out to those people and said, hey, you got a moment, you know what I'm dealing with. I just would like to know, what should I expect? What should I be looking forward to? How did you process? How did you go through it? And then I also like to read and watch videos and just try to be more informed on how to like physically, mentally, and emotionally prepare for stuff.
What was the feedback that you got from your friends?
Some of the things that stuck out was like, you know, you're gonna forever be different. You're not gonna ever be like the same person because it's a big part of who you are. It's a parent, so you've known this person your whole life. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna forever be different. That makes sense, right? That logically makes sense. Like, you know, everything with us is like, especially me, is a balance of logic and emotion, and I'm more logical than emotional. But most people assume I don't have emotions for some weird reason, but I have a lot of emotional intelligence. So that advice was helpful. One of the other things was sometimes like different types of anniversaries and dates can be triggering. So like a birthday, an anniversary, or different moments. Maybe you share different foods you were used to sharing, things you would used to do, might trigger some certain types of emotions. So
that memory,
so proactively hearing that information, when my mom's birthday came up, I took off days from work. I was like, nah, her birthday's coming up. I don't know how I'm gonna feel. I don't know how I'm gonna handle it. Mother's Day around there, I mentally prepare for it, or I might take off. I can't anticipate how I'm gonna feel. Like, emotions are something that you can't always predict. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be proactive versus reactive.
I hear that.
So the first couple years, and I still do take off those days, but the first couple years it was like hit or miss, up and down, how I was gonna feel. But I've developed like routines, and to me, like, that was super helpful. And then I don't duck the dialogue. Like, I kid you not, that same February, I got back from Hawaii. My boy Gio passed away the same day I got back. He was in the hospital.
Wow. So
I was now processing that as well. And then my mom's funeral was a Thursday. His funeral was a Friday, and there was just no way I was doing back-to-backs. Like, that's not the type of back-to-back I don't think a lot of people could deal with.
So this is a little bit more of a personal question, but how did you feel like a difference between processing a friend's passing away through your mom's passing away, or do you think that was just almost equally the same? Obviously, like, I would feel like your mother would be even more impactful, but through like just my personal experiences, and then what you told me, what you've been through, and what some of our audience been through, like, we all had that one friend that passed away very young, and we weren't expecting that. And when we got the news, it was just like, wait, it doesn't even feel real. It kind of feels like they're still here, but they're not. So how'd you feel at that moment processing, one, your mom passing away, and also now your close friend passing away?
Yeah, honestly, it was all going so fast, I can't even tell you. Like, I have no clue. Like, it was more or less like, I have to move forward and I have to deal with these things. And because, like, my boy Gio, I've known him since he moved out to this area from New York, and I believe it was around 5th grade. So it wasn't like,
Yeah.
you know, maybe somebody I knew when I was older. Like, he's embedded into my childhood. He's been around my family. He stayed over at my house. I've stayed over at his house. My family is his family. His grandmother is my grandmother.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things. So I think the thing that was helpful is that, you know, we have a whole cohort of us that all grew up together, that this all impacted us. And so that, I think, just kind of, you know, that bringing us together in a particular way, I believe, was like helpful in processing it. But now forever in February, it's like I don't really separate the two.